is one of the most important things in the world. As a basic part of life, the ability to read is essential to being able to function in our world. Indeed, when a child learns how to read, it opens up a plethora of other doors. They can take that ability and use it to study history, science, and literature. Even mathematics requires some basic reading skills. In this lesson, we'll discuss a popular and long-tried program for teaching students to read: Basal reading programs. Basal reading programs teach students to read through a series of texts that teach students to read by focusing on basic linguistic concepts, reading skills, and vocabulary. Instead of using pre-existing books to teach a child to read, the texts used in Basal reading programs are created with the express purpose of teaching children how to read. Basal reading programs are often designed collaboratively by educational companies and authors. Together, they structure lessons to introduce the basics of reading, like letters, parts of speech, and suffixes, before moving on to more complex things like sentence and paragraph structure. Basal reading programs depend upon the commitment of the student and teacher. They emphasize the repetition of concepts until they're memorized and generally introduce new concepts at regular intervals. The concepts and skills that Basal reading programs help students master are usually closely aligned with curriculum standards in order to make sure each student attains the reading proficiency necessary to reach benchmarks according to federal, state, or local school board requirements. Basal reading programs have been around since the mid-19th century, when the first McGuffey readers, a series of graded texts that work exactly in the way we've described Basal reading program books, were introduced to gradually improve the reading proficiency of elementary school students. Today, many teachers are moving away from Basal reading programs, but they're still very useful for new teachers, especially those who may have little experience teaching reading and need a structured approach to helping students build these skills. These programs can give both the teacher and the student a regimented program that has proven results and is easy to follow and measure progress with. If your son or daughter is being taught using a Basal reading program, or you're a teacher thinking of implementing one yourself to teach reading to your students, there are a few things to expect. For example, Basal reading programs start essentially from the ground up. If the child already knows how to read a little, much of the early part of the Basal reading program will likely be redundant. If this is the case, try to keep the child interested in reading by helping him or her to work ahead, or by introducing texts you feel are at the right reading level and age. In addition, there will likely be homework in the form of worksheets and writing assignments. Basal reading programs teach students to memorize key concepts through repetition. In addition, they also encourage students to write about what they've read to aid understanding. It's important to emphasize to your students the importance of doing their homework and doing it properly if they are to learn the concepts being taught.